But we are now being recorded. And well, anyway, so welcome to this July meeting, which is normally not very well attended, of the PPNA Patterson Park Neighborhood Association. My name is Ernest. I am the president of Patterson Park Neighborhood Association. So welcome to all of you all. I'm going to do some quick introductions of the board. So in the room with me, we have Cheryl Bryant, who is, okay, I always forget exactly where everybody is, but Cheryl Bryant is the vice president representing the east sector of the neighborhood. And then we also have Kelly Poole over there representing the south sector of the neighborhood. And then there is Elena Huang, who is our secretary, who also recently got married. So everybody clap for her.
Woo!
I'm sorry, I had to do it. On the Zoom, we have Colin, who is the representative of our west sector, and Lindsay, right over here, who is the representative of the Patterson Place sector. Yes? Oh, and also Nate.
Congratulations.
I didn't see you, Nate. So Nate is also our treasurer. So that is your entire board. In a moment, we actually have some official business that we will be conducting, and you'll get to see how that works. But first, I just wanted to do really quickly show of hands who is here for the first time, who's here for their first PPNA meeting. Okay, wow, very good, very good. All right, I want to do this very fast. I will let everybody who raised their hand just stand up, say your name, what block you live on. Don't do any more than that because we don't have time for that. Okay, let's start with, I feel someone over here. Yep.
My name is Steve. I live directly across the street from Grace's Acre.
Very good. Okay.
I'm Abby. I live on the 3200 block of East Fairmount.
Matt, I'm also on the 3200 block of East Fairmount.
Great.
I'm George, I'm the 100th block of North Acre.
Okay.
Lauren Corey, the unit block of South Becker.
Very good.
Terrence, 200 Fort.
Okay.
I'm Rowan, I'm the unit block of North Clinton.
All right. Welcome.
Hi, I'm Lois. I'm on 100 Northeast Avenue.
Okay.
And Sean Tate, 200 block of East Orange.
Okay. Yep. Going around this way. Who we got?
Sean, 200 block of Lutheran. Jesse, 200 block of Lutheran.
Okay.
Joshua, 200 block of the third.
Very nice.
Same.
No, I.
We just bring it one block here. Is that what happened? Sure. All right.
Yeah, I am Naomi. I'm from the 400 block.
Ah, welcome.
Very special block.
Anybody else? Yes.
Emily, unit block.
North Club. Very nice. Very nice. Okay, and on the Zoom, we have a raised hand. It's Leslie. Where do you live?
2600 block East Fairmount.
Okay.
Hi, my name's Chanel Gray. I live on 100 block of North Island.
Okay, I think that's everybody, right? Everybody who's new. Okay, so despite the fact that we have basically an open agenda, it turns out we have a lot to go over here because I've heard from a lot of people about things that they want to discuss. We will start actually first with Andrew Crummy, who is over there, owner of Charms Kitchen and also 101/103 North Patterson Park Avenue. I'll let him explain all of that. And do you need me to give you further insight? You can share your screen?
Yeah, that'll
Okay.
work.
All right.
I can, you guys can see some of those graphics.
Okay, so. Make you a co-host. And that should allow you to share your screen. It's fast. Excellent. All right.
Cool. Thanks. So my name is Andrew Crummy. I lived in Butcher's Hill on the corner for 14 years. Bought and redeveloped Charm Kitchen 6 years ago. We purchased, give you kind of background of how we've owned Grace Acre for now about 3.5, almost 4 years. Since 2020, or beginning of COVID. We purchased it off the old owner, the Oak Pack, who had that for a very long time. We bought it at the beginning of COVID. So as you can imagine, not much was happening for COVID. We actually had to do a seller financing deal with her to be able to acquire the property. The first year or so, we used it as a kind of a remote school for our neighborhood kids, mine included, because we didn't have options to send to school. The entire time intending to do essentially a second location of Charm Kitchen or a light type business. We were gonna call it Charm, we're gonna call it something else. So we actually spent about a year designing, getting zoning, working with the board, presented at a general meeting, I think about a year ago. Via Zoom, of kind of what our plans were. We haven't made much progress. I don't have a great update on where we stand. But I'll give you a quick product overview and then I'll kind of explain where we're at. The intent of the project is to have a first floor cafe, just like Charm does. Walk up, you walk in, it'll be about double the size of Charm, if anyone's been familiar with it. It's kind of small row home kind of space. This obviously is a double wide building, so we get the benefit of having a little more space for dining, people can be on their computers, et cetera, like the internet cafe kind of concept. We then added a component, which is a basement bar. And we did that because the basement is a big footprint and the rear of the property is actually very deep. And the idea was to have another amenity tied to the cafe. It's all one entity anyway. It's just that the space would feel different when you're in the bar basement versus upstairs in the cafe. And then we also asked the board about 1.5 years ago, we had this ambiguity around our density, how many units we could get. Regardless, the easy answer was to ask the board, ask PP&A for variances for like rear yard setbacks and kind of like administrative things that to zoning people would make a lot of sense, but to me kind of doesn't. But the density obviously is a big one, right? More cars, more apartments, that kind of stuff. So we asked for permission to go to 5 units at that point, and we're granted. We actually went
So,
through-
sorry to interrupt real quick, but so when he says the board, what he means is the BMCA, the Board of Municipal and Zoning Appeals, not PPNA, the board. And they're the ones who actually
Correct.
grant those variances. Okay.
Yeah, so
Sorry, keep going.
the board that grants the variances is BMCA. We did get a letter of support from the association before saying, hey, we want to use this use because anytime you're adding commercial to a residential area, there's a process, right? They want to make sure that the neighborhood's on board. It's a conditional use. The board has to say yes to it, right? It's not automatic, right? So anyway, so that was about 1.5 years ago, or 2 years ago. Since what's happened transpired is the market is seized up for lending and borrowability, right? So right now the property sits vacant. It's an eyesore to the neighborhood. It is a eyesore, an embarrassment, and a financial loss. To me, it's frustrating that we can't get this project going. The market simply isn't really interested in mixed-use developments in tough areas, right? Or transitional areas, and lending overall in the construction market has been tough to get. So we have applied and we're in for a state loan, which is a pretty good program. It's actually a fantastic program. It actually is intended to help spur developments in these types of projects in areas like PPNA or Butcher's Hill. That's a very long process. Like any state agency, they have the funds, they have the intent, they're overwhelmed. And since the bridge collapsed, that same is now servicing bridge loan recovery efforts. So I was talking to Ernest about trying to figure out how to move this project forward. I have a couple options. One is wait for that state loan to kind of matriculate, get through the process, which I've got some issues and concerns with that materializing. Frankly, one of the issues is that I went through a divorce. My financial situation isn't quite what it was 8 months ago. We actually had this project pretty close to being approved. And now that's in jeopardy with the situation that I found myself in. So I called up Ernest and just said, hey, just want to chat about where we stand. One of the options for me is to add density, more density, right? Anytime a developer has a project, the more apartments you can add, the better the deal looks, right? It just pencils better. So that is a easy way to make the project look better to a bank, to state loan, to another investor, whatever the situation is. One of my options is just to wait to find out what the state says, and that's not gonna happen until August, September. So during that time, I figured I might as well approach and just say, hey, I don't know what's gonna come out of the bank, the lending response here in August, September. But I wanna be prepared and not lose the next 2 months if there's tolerance or the idea that you guys will allow me to pursue even more density. I wanna be clear, though, the project is, I'm gonna develop the project, we can find a way, I don't wanna make it sound like the only way this project moves forward is if you give me density, right? That's not the pitch, it's more of, it would help the project overall and give it an easier pathway through, lending and construction in an uncertain time. Are there any questions about, before we get to that, any questions about the project overall, the intent, the impacts?
Are any of your units gonna be affordable housing?
No, none of them are. I'm a private developer, so the city or the state, federal government, giving money to subsidize, I will. I actually develop affordable housing, as a day job. It's all subsidy programs. The contractor or the seller gave me a discount for, then I pursue it, but.
How many total units are you currently planning for, and how many are you asking for?
Great question, sorry, yeah, so, there's the cafe, the bar, and then there's 6 apartments. One thing I forgot to mention is that we also acquired 1 of 3 Patterson Park, it was a vacant house next to it. That gets us our trash and recycling off the street, it also gave us an extra unit, so we have 6 total now, we only have 3 more to get to 9.
So just real quick, we're gonna give this discussion another 10 minutes. Okay.
I have a question. Is there any parking for the residents that comes with that? Because I'm assuming part of this is the concern is keeping the streets clogging them up, right? Is that more or less why, like, what you're asking, or what the concern is with?
That would be one of the concerns, yeah, so it does not come with extra parking.
Okay.
So we have 1 parking spot, that would be for the restaurant use.
Okay.
Then I'm gonna have all my trash and recycling in that back corner, so 101 is full outline, it goes all the way to the back alley. The only place other than the sidewalk for that logistics is behind 103, so we use that and then have that for parking. But there will be 0 parking for residents.
Doesn't the property have a garage on the side?
It does, it's a loading dock,
So, loading.
so it doesn't actually go, it only goes in 6 feet.
Oh, yeah.
But that's part of one of the units, because what happens is that in order to get ADA access, we gotta drop the level inside to the front sidewalk. So the whole first floor lowers, and that's part of actually I can show you real quick. This is the front elevation, so part of this is we are going up a 3rd floor. If you guys can visualize the property now. Actually, maybe I do have. Yeah, this is the property now. You have a 3rd floor kind of mansard kind of folly space. It's not usable. So the idea is we remove that and go a 3rd floor. And that gets us the square footage for the apartments above. This is the front. This is a restored storefront. Clean up the brick and have the 3rd floor. And this shows 1 of 3 being incorporated into the project. So it'll look like one project when you're facing it from the front. And then the side is currently the brick is what's there now. We'll strip that, repoint all that brick, but we'll add a siding material, like a hardy board, and it's a more of a modern look of all the additional space. But what you can see here is this is essentially where the loading dock door is now. That gets brought down to grade and it gets rebuilt, so there won't be a loading dock there. The entrance to the apartments is this little ADA walk up to that door. And then the approach to the bar is here, you can't really see the stairs. And of course, this is Fairmount.
And how many apartments did you say you would wanna add to this?
So currently approved for 6, and I'd like to add 3, is the request.
How many bedrooms per unit?
Yeah, so, sorry, so I'm not changing the overall massing of the building, so the bedroom count actually stays the same. Because it goes from 2 bedrooms to 1 2-bedrooms. 1 2-bedroom apartment split into 2 1-bedrooms. So the bedroom count across the unit stays actually the same as it was before. But instead of 2 2-bedroom unit, there'll be 2 1-bedroom units. Makes sense. And then I'll show you one last picture. This is a storefront. This was during the design process, but essentially that's kind of the storefront look we're going for the front of the building.
Will you have exterior lighting and tables as well?
Yes. Yeah, so during the conditional commercial use application, I think we already have outdoor dining now is allowable. When I opened Charmed, it wasn't. I had to go to the process to get that. It's allowable now under the code, so we'll have outdoor dining. And then the liquor license, the restaurant liquor license, will have to speak to that as well. We'll have to get that covered as well, whenever that gets applied for.
And then the other question would be, since you're having a liquor license, how long will the bars be open? Because I live on that same block.
Yeah.
So I'm not gonna wanna be here, a bunch of drunks and party animals.
You don't want to hear a bunch of drums walking down the street? It's not your evening.
I was planning to live in Federal Hill on Ravens games.
Yeah, so obviously, I don't think, there's not many bars in this area, even down between the, things that even stay up at 2 o'clock anyway, right? There's no money in it anymore. I think most of those places are closing down at 10, 11 o'clock.
And that's your plan?
I don't have a plan actually right now. I don't have an MOU. We never got to that point, but, so the cafe as an example, Charm closes at 9. Right, the bar ideal would stay later than 9, because, why else are you going to the space? So some derivation of that, I don't know exactly what time it would be. But I don't think there's any real market for a 2 a.m. bar.
I think he's got a couple of questions coming in on that.
I was just gonna point this out to you, so, we've got lots of questions coming in here, so. Let's go up to, let's take it one by one, so you've got Amber here, what will be the square footage? You can read that.
Yeah, so the overall square footage of the apartments in aggregate doesn't change. Right now, the 2 bedrooms they're splitting up are over 1,000 square feet. So they go from 1,080 to 5 something. So there's a 3-bedroom apartment right now that gets split up into 2 1-bedrooms. It's actually that's one bedroom reduction, I guess. That one is 1,200 square feet, I think. With additional apartments in the side, it does not. The commercial space stays as is. So all I'm doing is breaking up the larger units into smaller units. The cafe stays the same size, the bar stays the same size, and the office that's designed stays the same size. So it's all within the existing footprint. And the elevations I showed, that all stays the same as well. There's no more height or anything to that.
All right, so a question from Mikaela.
My pro forma says 1,400 for the 1-bedroom.
So what will you charge? You're saying 1,400?
Yeah.
Okay. And then, and this question from Lindsay, the proposal is for a total of 9 units with no off-street parking.
Correct, because I don't want to say that the parking is going for residents, it's going for the commercial use, so it'd be 9 without parking, yeah.
Okay.
And again, this is a kind of a request, kind of calling us and said, hey, just try to think about what I could do to help push this along. Yeah, there are other options. This isn't the only thing. It's not like if you say, no, I can't do the deal, I'll find a way. This is just one of those, this is, any developer will tell you, if you can add a couple more units, it does make a big difference on the bottom line. If you guys say, no, that's fine, I know density is a big issue, I know parking is a big issue, I'm on the land use committee at Butcher Sill, I used to be the president. I get it, so it's not a do or die, it'd be nice, if not, we'll see what happens with the state loan, I'll keep on pushing, I'll try to find investors to try to push it along. I don't want to see it vacant anymore, right, so I think we're on the same page for that. Just why not ask while I'm waiting for the state to pick up the application.
So I'll add to that a little bit. So the first thing you all need to understand is that PPNA is not an HOA. Okay, we don't have legal power. We are a nonprofit that exists for the purpose of promoting the neighborhood and trying to make the neighborhood better. But we don't have legal power. We don't have the ability to go around and being like, hey, your door is the wrong color. Do something about that or we will levy a fine against you. This also means that when Andrew comes before the BMZA and asks for whatever variance he wants, they take into account what the community says, but they don't have to do what we say. So just because, we might write a letter in support of what he wants. And the BMZA may take that into account and still say, no, we don't want to do it. We might write a letter opposing what he wants. And the BMZA might look at that and say like, well, but this adheres to our policy, so we're going to grant the variance. Okay, so just understand that we have some amount of power, but we don't have like the ability to forbid something or give permission for something. All right. The other thing I want to emphasize to all of you is that this is something that we're going to be talking about for a while. I don't expect us to come to a decision right now about like support, not support, but I want you all to think about this property has been sitting vacant for as long as I've lived here, which is 2016. And so I think it's worth remembering that Andrew does not have to come here to get permission from us because we don't actually have power. But all of us together, we can start thinking about like, okay, none of us wants this to sit vacant. So what would we like to do? We would all love it if it could just be a cafe that moves in and there's absolutely no impact on nightlife and on traffic or anything like that. That's not realistic. So what would we like to do? What is the vision for this instead? Okay, so I see a hand over here.
Yeah, the one question I have, and I think, this answer will probably be quite speculative for you, understandably. But what would you expect the difference, or what would you hope the difference in the time frame to be if you added that density? So, if the time doesn't make that much of a difference, then why do it from a parking perspective? It doesn't affect me, I'm all.
That's a fair point. Yeah. So I guess I'm trying to do things in parallel, right? If I'm gonna be back in queue, the first time I'm dealing with the state's been very transparent. It's been a fault that we fell out of the queue for the situation, the divorce. She's saying, listen, by the end of August, you'll be back. I can get you in front of me and I'll be my full attention on this project, right? So my intent was, while I'm waiting for that, it's not that far away, right? While I'm waiting for that, maybe I'll start this process. If I wait to find out after 30 days of her reviewing that the deal doesn't work, then I come and talk to you guys. Well, then it's pushing it out. So my only intent here was to try to do parallel. Again, if the answer is no, then I'll wait to see how it unfolds with the state, and then I might get the loan anyway. I just don't know. It's a lot of unknowns with what's gonna happen in the next few months, and with my situation. So that's why I was trying to get rid of it, so I'm not burning time in a linear fashion. So yes, I could wait and find out what they say and then come back. The only downside would be then I'm starting the process kind of over and.
And I was just thinking, I was not sure if you had a feel for, adding density would be like, we got this, but make it.
Well, I can say that, there's still a good chance I can get it. I mean, I don't know, right? I can tell you if I had the density, the numbers are fantastic, right? It does push it over the edge of where it goes from being a good project to being a really good project.
What's your time frame once you get started?
Full construction, so whenever we get like funded, it'll be almost a year. And a year to go from construction to opening the cafe, but the apartments would be done before that, but Charm took me a year. And I'm probably not any more sophisticated than it was then, so I would say a year, and this is a bigger project.
Okay, so I'm sorry, I know there are a lot of questions, but we really have a lot of other people who want to bring up topics, so our email is info@pattersonparkneighborhood.org. Send your questions and we can relay them to Andrew, or if you have opinions about this, please let us know. All right, so Andrew, thank you very much. And so just real quickly, I'm going to actually have us do a little bit of official business. So Michaela, I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly. Could you unmute yourself? And
Hi.
So actually the board did not know this, but you have a proposal that you want to bring before the board, is that right?
Yes, it's for the Love Be More grant that the city puts out.
Okay, so let me give you guys a little bit of background. So normally this is something that we just handle on our own, but Michaela brought this up to me and I said, like, we can just take care of this at the meeting. So this will only take a couple of minutes, but PPNA, when people are applying for grants, sometimes those grants require a fiscal sponsor that is a 501c3. PPNA is a 501c3. And when that just means that like if the grant is given, then the funds actually go to our bank account and we hold it and then we actually spend it to pay for the supplies contractors or whatever. We charge a 10% fee for this. So that being said, I understand that there are some people on your block who would like to apply for the what was the grant again?
It's just for the full amount. So we're requesting the 1,500. This would cover the 10% fee for you all, so that we can purchase replacement bulbs for our string lights. And then our neighbors will come together and we'll reinstall them ourselves. But
Right.
we have a lot out.
And I'm sorry, the name of the grant again was it Love Your Block?
Yes, it's called the Love Your Block.
Okay. Board members, do you have any questions about this? I know we just kind of sprung this on you, but they are asking for $1,500 they have some string lights already. They are asking for us to act as the fiscal sponsor when they apply for this grant in the amount of $1,500, which we will take $150 from that. And
For light bulbs or new strings?
They're for the light bulb. So our neighborhood raised as a neighborhood the $3,000 to get string lights up and down our block. And so now we just need to replace the bulbs, and a 15 pack on Amazon is roughly $18 to $20. And so to replace all of them, it's roughly $1,500.
now, just to be clear, not every single bulb is out right now.
Correct. We have about half a block that needs to be fixed, and then intermittently. So the remaining bulbs would be stored in a secure storage shed on my property. And, happy to complete any paperwork or requirements that the board needs me to do.
And so I see a hand from the audience. I will say this is actually something that the board generally handles, but well, Leslie, do you have a question?
I don't object at all to the expenditure or the board, being the fiduciary. I'm just curious because other blocks have similar string lights. Is this a process and grant that other blocks can apply for, or is it only like one per Patterson Park kind of thing?
There's nothing that says that other blocks cannot apply for it. You just need to organize your neighbors and get an application together. And
Okay.
then they just the application is going to require the fiscal sponsor, that is us, to provide like IRS documents and tax ID numbers and other things like that.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Board members, are there any other questions? I don't see any in the room. I don't see any in the Zoom. Okay, so we will call for a vote. All board members who are in favor of acting as the fiscal sponsor for this project, if you're on the Zoom, just use the thumbs up, or if you are in the room, just raise your hand. I'm just asking the board members. So if you're not a board member, you guys are basically the audience for how the board conducts business. Okay, it passes. So congratulations. And if you don't mind, send me an email just to remind me, and then I'll give you all the information that you need for the grant. Okay.
Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. Okay, now on to the next thing. Do we have somebody from Chesapeake Climate? Hi. All right. You're gonna have 10 minutes, so come on up, please introduce yourself.
Thank you. 10 minutes. Hello, everyone. My name is Jamie DeMarco. I'm the Maryland Director at the Chesapeake Climate Action Network. The Chesapeake Climate Action Network, or CCAN, is a nonprofit advocacy organization. We've been active in Maryland for more than 20 years. We worked on a number of campaigns along with grassroots organizations across the state to do things like ban fracking in Maryland, pass the Climate Solutions Now Act, which is the strongest climate goals in the country, and lots of other good things. I want to talk to you today about an important piece of legislation because we're nice and cool down here in the basement, but as you may have noticed, it is hot out today. We are experiencing record-breaking heat dome effects throughout Maryland and throughout the country. And we are all paying the cost of experiencing increasing extreme weather events. These come with costs. So the city is running cooling centers to make sure that everyone who needs to has somewhere cool to go. That's really important. I'm glad we're doing it, and it comes at a cost. This past September and June of last year, we had public schools in Baltimore and Baltimore County not able to operate in September and June because of extreme heat. We had heat days and school closing. All of these schools are going to have to be upgraded to have air conditioning that allows for, that is able to handle the increased heat events that we are now experiencing. That's going to cost the state and city hundreds of millions of dollars to accomplish. All of these dollars, if we do nothing, all of those costs are going to be borne by taxpayers in Baltimore and in Maryland. What I'm here to talk to you today about is the RENEW Act, which stands for the Responding to Emergency Needs from Extreme Weather Act. Where's my camera? The Responding to Emergency Needs from Extreme Weather Act, the RENEW Act. This bill would invest hundreds of millions of dollars a year into Maryland, into adapting to heavier rains, hotter hots, and higher tides that we're all experiencing. And it would make that cost financial burden be paid for by the largest international fossil fuel companies instead of Maryland taxpayers. It would impose a one-time fee on the largest international players. This is the Exxon, Chevrons, BP's, Shells. There's about 40 of them in total. None of them are based in Maryland. All of them do operations in Maryland. We have a letter from the Attorney General saying that this is constitutional. And it would impose a one-time fee on them, and then would invest those funds into everything that we need to survive increasingly extreme weather events, and to do it equitably, and to move us onto a cleaner source of energy so we stop contributing to the problem quite so much. This is a piece of legislation that was introduced last year by Senator Hester and Delegate Fraser Hidalgo and Delegate Boafo. It's been endorsed by a lot of different organizations. What I have here is a resolution that more than 50 organizations throughout Baltimore and Maryland have signed endorsing the policy. And I would be honored if this neighborhood association would be interested in signing this resolution as well. I'll pass them out. I think I have 22, so not quite enough for everyone. Maybe take one and share with 2 other neighbors. But I think this is a really important piece of legislation that is going to be coming back in the legislative session of 2025. You can look on the back of that document and see just the sampling of the organizations that have already endorsed. And I'll stop there and pause for questions. Yes.
It's very interesting to me that you're able to, or we would be potentially able to impose this fee, considering that these companies aren't based here. What's the mechanism for that?
So if you sell your product in Maryland, then Maryland has the ability to make you pay. If a company, and it's really impossible for a company to say, you know, we're gonna dig this oil out of the ground and sell it to a refinery who's gonna distribute it, but distribute it to everyone except for Maryland. That's not possible given the mechanics of oil extraction, refining, and distribution. And so all of these companies sell their product here and are not able to not sell their product here. And that's why we have the legal authority to make them pay this, because they do business here.
Cool.
It's a lot like a tobacco settlement or an opioid settlement, except it's not a lawsuit, it is legislative. I should have also mentioned that this year, the similar legislation passed in Vermont, and the Republican governor there chose not to veto it, so it has now become law. In New York, the assembly just passed it. The governor has not yet made a decision about it. So we would not be the first. This is a growing trend among states. Yes.
So this is something we can support individually, but you also want support from us as our organization.
Yes, that is right. If you go to if you Google Chesapeake Climate Action Network, you can find the individual sign on where you can add your name, but would also love to have the neighborhood association.
Saw a hand go, I think it was Nate. Did you have your hand up?
Yeah, you said Vermont passes similar legislation. Have they seen funds come from it?
No, they just passed it this year. So it is still in the process of implementation. In full transparency, we expect there'll be a lawsuit and it'll have to work its way through the courts. So we shouldn't anticipate this money coming in next year or the year after, but these problems aren't going away. We need the funds.
So we were talking oil companies, what would prevent oil companies from, let's say, I guess adjusting prices in some ways to compensate for the fees that, or what this would actually impose costs on them?
That's a great question. I'm glad you asked. It's one of the reasons I love this policy the most. There's about 40 companies that would pay this penalty. And there are hundreds of companies in the oil distribution and refining business. So if there are hundreds of companies that don't pay this, 40 companies that do, those 40 companies will not be able to pass the cost along without making themselves uncompetitive with the hundreds who don't have to pay it. And those hundreds of other companies who are not paying this one-time fee would be excited to have a leg up on the competition. So through market competition, we can ensure that these costs are not going to be passed on to Maryland consumers. There was an analysis done by the Institute for Policy Integrity that looks more, that's sort of an overview, but they look more specifically at that and came to the same conclusion. I'm happy to send it.
Okay, this is gonna be, you're gonna be the last question.
More of a question for Ernest.
Okay.
Would this be a vote? That you distribute to offer endorsement?
I was actually about to take care of that right now, so I guess I want to get a sense of the room. Do people feel like you can make a decision right now as to whether to support or not, or do you need more information? So just show of hands, who wants more information? Okay, who feels like, I'm not saying, you're not committing to a yes or no right now, but who feels like you can make a vote, you can make a yes, or you can make an up or down decision right now? All right, well, it sounds like we can do this. So the way our neighborhood organization is structured is that when we put a question before the community, you have to be a member residing within the neighborhood boundaries. You don't have to be a member, you don't have to pay for it or anything like that. You just have to be residing within the neighborhood, okay? And our secretary, Elena, is going to take the count here. So all who are, and the ask is for PPNA to endorse the Renew Act.
Yes.
Okay. All who are in favor, please raise your hand right now and keep it up so that Elena can do a count.
Does this count for the people on Zoom as well?
Yes, so if you're on Zoom, use the thumbs up feature, use the thumbs up feature, and I'm actually going to try to.
Does Kevin take a picture?
Oh, sure, yeah, go for it. Okay.
Everyone in favor of support?
All right. All who are opposed, please raise your hand. Okay, initiative passes.
Thank
All
you.
right, thank you very much.
Don't forget to go to PPN's website to put your individual report in too. Everybody.
So if you don't mind, talk to Elena right over there, give her your contact info and the website where you want people to go. We'll send that out through our email list, okay?
And I've got cards here. I'll leave some here if anyone is interested.
Great, thank you very much. Okay, Haiti, you wanted to say something real quick.
There's a lot more people here. Hello, everybody. My name is Haiti Batista. I am from DPW, which is your garbage, your recycling, your water, your alleys. So if anybody has any issues with any of these things, my card will be at the front desk here. You can take a picture of it. If you call in any 311s, just send me the SR numbers and I can send it to our chiefs and we can put it on an extra route for our guys to come out and clean up. All right, does anybody have any issues?
Not sure you should have asked that.
Alright, I'm glad to be a cop now, that you know that I'm here. You can just send me an email or shoot me a text with the 311 SR number of the claim or report or the issue. And I will send it to either the chiefs or the directors and I'll put it on the next one.
I also want to just let everybody know Haiti is bilingual in Spanish, so a lot of.
That's a
something
big
that she-
chunk here. I want to know what they're doing with it.
All right, so as I was saying, Haiti is bilingual, so something that she does quite often is actually go out into the neighborhood when you have some neighbors or family who like don't understand when is trash pickup or what are the rules regarding all of that, and you're having trouble communicating with them because there's a language barrier, Katie can help with that as well. So thank you very much.
I target those homes, so if you know somebody who, you know, the particular house that just, you just see an abundance of garbage going out, or you just let me know the address and I'll come and drop over with the proper number.
Do you have a preferred method, like text or email, if we want to reach out to you, or does it not make?
It's on, I'd rather email, that I can chase it and send it over to.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Okay.
You're welcome. My card's up here.
So I'm gonna keep moving this along. By the way, for those of you who are here for the first time, the library closes at 8 and they kick us out. So that's why I'm trying to move this along as quickly as possible. Now, I just want to get a sense of where we are right now. So who is here specifically because they want to talk about events around Esther Place? No.
We're talking about events, so.
Okay, so just, just wanted to, okay, and who is here because they wanted to raise something else for the community? Okay, yes, right, okay. So, okay, so I understand that there is we'll call it a community safety issue. Is there somebody who wanted to like speak to that first and open the discussion? And I'm gonna give this about 10 minutes. Sure.
So, I'm David Leidensberger. I'm the former president of the Patterson Park Neighborhood Association from back in like 2012, 2013. I'm still relatively active on my block, which is the 100 block of Northeast Avenue. I wish I was more familiar with the folks living on Fairmount and Clinton, but basically what I wanted to do today is I sent out an email maybe a day or two ago to several people in the neighborhood, the police department, people in Zeke Cohen's office and the mayor's office, about I think it's 3132 Esther Place, and now it's 28 North Clinton. Okay, these two properties are vacant properties. They're occupied by squatters, drug dealers, drug users. On a regular basis, people are coming in and out of those houses. I've got photos of it. Probably a lot of the other folks here have photos of it too. It's a really like heartbreaking and disgusting and like dangerous situation. So the people coming in and out of those houses, just like those kind of fentanyl injuries people have, like, bloody, bandaged, wrapped, can't stand up properly. And, as of, I guess a day or two ago, there was a shooting right in that area.
Yesterday morning.
Yesterday, okay, that, also seems to be related to all of those problems. So, what I was hoping to do today is just in conjunction with anybody else that wants to, is just organize a group of people, around this issue. So that we all can kind of get on the same page, get in touch with our police department folks and our housing department folks and our representatives in city government to make sure they're all on the same page, that these properties need to be looked at, they need to be regularly policed and patrolled. The owners of the property need to be fined. We need to start a nuisance abatement process by which if they don't fix this problem, the house will be taken away from them. Just so you know, I've already looked into the ownership of the property. It's owned by a group that's related to a prominent Baltimore City political donor, unfortunately. So I don't know how many roadblock that's going to be for us, but
HC2 Highland 2 LLC.
yeah, well, and so they're related. We can discuss it more, privately, but like, who is actually in charge of that LLC and why it's a problem for us. In any case, that's basically it. It's a real hazard. I hope that the folks from the police here are, I'm sure you're already aware of it, but what we'd like to see is, today, regularly, it's really easy to see people just doing drugs on the street, like injecting things into their arms on the street, in the alleys, within a 2-block radius of that area. If you just drive around that 2-block radius every hour for a couple of days, you can pick them all up and get them all out. I don't know what your procedures are, but we need action.
Can I speak to this as well? We have a WhatsApp chat with about 20 neighbors currently that have been organizing around this. I'm Abby Deal. I have spoken with Sergeant Hines on the phone. I met with Drug Task Force detectives. I've been emailing, are you Ethan? I've been emailing with Ethan, Ash, Zeke, and Maggie, and as have Ron and Trevor. I also spoke with the Baltimore Banner reporter who did the feature on the opioid epidemic in Baltimore, and Trevor will be speaking with her as well. We've had 2 overdose deaths in the area as well, including one right by Sokol, which serves mostly kids. It's a gymnastics center. And we've had addicts break into Sokol while kids were having classes and with a lone female employee there.
We've had backyard break-ins at several locations on our houses, and then this drive-by shooting yesterday with the victim unknown according to Major Cologne.
Cologne, yes.
Okay. So we have asked for support with the allocating process for our alleys. We have asked for a lighting study. We have asked for the vacants to be addressed. There are also some properties owned by Stillwell Plumbing, which are currently boarded up but not officially labeled vacant, and they have been a frequent source of drug use and squatting as well. And when I moved into this block, I owned my home there 4 years ago. There was not a single boarded up property in the radius that, like, you know, those surrounding blocks, and now there's about 6. And they're all owned by slumlords or LLCs that have done nothing in response to the notices on them. So we need movement on those notices, and we need police patrol, and we need additional lighting. There is no lighting behind the 32 North Clinton or 28. It's very dark in that corner, and that's where most of the drug dealing happens. It was quiet after the shooting yesterday, and at the time that we neighbors walked over, the drug dealers were back on the street, and as were the addicts. So contributing to the same thing, I don't know.
Yeah, so, you mind speaking to that point as well?
Go for it.
Oh, so, specifically, so one of the issues that I'm seeing, and just speaking from this, because I was a police officer for 11 years, 5 years in Baltimore, 6 in Seattle. I know obviously what y'all going through right now with the dwindling numbers and things like that, because back when I was on, it was 15 people per sector, right? We used to walk the block and nobody could literally stand on the block, right? At one point in time, but that's long gone. But now what we have is where our politicians don't respond in a timely manner unless there's threats of going to an outside source, because we've been emailing for God knows how long. Now, my neighbors, I feel like I'm the damn fool, because I used to live here, excuse my French. I knew better what I was getting into. But the idea is like, we clean up the alleys. I clean up the alley on Saturday, and then by Saturday afternoon, literally, we got needles all back in there. Now, in this situation, we can't even take the needles anywhere. I gotta chase down, Department of Health halfway across the city just to like give them the needles and things like that as well. So that's the most frustrating part for me, right? Like, I know the crime and everything like that is like, it's Baltimore City. I'm not making an excuse for it. I understand, right? But the idea is like the little nuances that go along with us as citizens to even try to even like mitigate some of the things, right? So I'm kind of at a point where like, I'm about to literally just get a jackhammer and put a damn gate in myself right now, and then fight it out with the city about like y'all trying to take it down. Because at this point, y'all not only putting my neighbors in a bad situation, you put me in a bad situation because I'm sitting at home, and if somebody breaks into my house, then, well, we're gonna be here for a different reason. You know what I'm saying? So, and I'm not even joking, I'm being dead serious. My fiance was at home and somebody ripped the picket off my fence and tried to remove the lock, right? And I mean, so I said like, you know, you should smash his fucking hand with a hammer. Excuse my French.
We also had a confrontation between a
Yeah.
neighbor next to us where he asked a guy to leave his property and the guy threatened him, and they had a physical confrontation. My fiance's been threatened and had things thrown at him. This is like a daily occurrence. This is why we've been emailing.
Yeah.
We are not trying to be antagonistic, but like, I ask anybody who says like, just hold on, to imagine that this was happening in their backyard and how much they would hold on. And
Exactly.
just wait for something to happen, like we're waiting and people got shot yesterday.
And I called.
The whole reason why we're showing up is like, we're farther away, we're unit block of South Decker, we're right next to the park, and we're having issues start to show up most predominantly in like the last month, but enough so that our own house and our own vehicles have been broken in, not the house itself, or a parking pad had stuff stolen out of it. Granted, they stole a bag of trash, but how were they to? But like, his car got broken into at 6:30 PM yesterday in broad daylight. And then like, we have the footage of where they're going through our stuff in their parking pads on July 3rd. That's twice in like a week. It's ridiculous. I have a small dog. I walk the dog, and the last month specifically is getting worse and worse in the daytime, in the morning, in the evening. There used to be like, okay, well, just don't go outside at 9 PM or later, right? Try to walk the dog before then. And now it's like, you can't go out at 11 AM. My construction going on my house, the guy was going in and out of the front door, car parked right in front of it. And anytime he was doing it, because he's a friend of mine that doesn't live in the area, I was watching his truck. And then a guy with a baby stroller completely empty, my dog's going ballistic at the door. I walk up to the door, and he's like trying to check my friend's truck. I said, excuse me. He turns around, he goes, just doing squats, and starts squatting. And I'm like, it's 11 a.m. I'm a female solo. What am I supposed to do? I don't want to be putting myself in threat, but I'm kind of fed up with it.
So, so I guess my question is, starting with the police department, right? It's like, so what are some things that combined we can do together, right?
Yeah,
To
we are
mitigate-
here to be intel, help, we are organized.
No, I 100%, I get that 100%, you guys are all here to help. Like, huge and beautiful, and that place should be like you know, as you stated, in, we're obviously short, right? The department's short, everybody knows that, it's not an excuse, we're still out there working hard. Unfortunately, I was late to this meeting, I was just, had to rush 2 officers to the hospital, out there working hard, doing their thing, trying to, you know, help the communities. In my personal opinion, one of the main things we want to focus on is the vacant homes. You know, getting those vacant homes addressed, because that is always where crime's at, right? So they use the vacant homes, like you said, to use drugs, sometimes they deal drugs out of, and it just festers, right? And then it just grows, and now they're in the neighborhood, and they're hanging out in the neighborhood, and they're keep trying to get back to the vacant house that you use. So that is a huge thing. As far as, so we put in 311s, right, to have them boarded up, but we know that they just take the boards off, right? Unfortunately, that's the most secure we can make a building is with a board, because fire department rules, because if you catch it on fire, something like that, we can no longer use, there used to be like a metal system you would use, can't use that any longer because you can't get in there and fight the fire. So the half of the whole block, they use some type of permanent, even when they block them up with cement blocks. The fire department, the deal with the fire department, they've been saying, you know, most part for the safety of the overall neighborhood, it's the boards. And unfortunately, we know they can be removed. We really have to just get rid of the vacant homes. I do think that is the key attack is vacant homes and trying to get rid of those. But outside of that, I think working with Luke Cohen's office, we can, in the mayor's office, I think we can get a team together. And what we do is we take the walk that you offered to coordinate, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, I was gonna ask you guys to all here tonight, if you and the other folks that are here from this region, can we just walk over there? I would love to just take a walk tonight, just take a look.
Yeah,
We're all
so,
here.
well, we can definitely do that, but if we can organize it with the mayor's office, then we get all the players involved, right? So we get the mayor's office, we get the Department of Transportation, we get DPW, everyone like that, right? And we can organize this so they all go and see what issues they can address, right? So we walk through the areas, through the blocks, through the alleys. You guys point out, you know, what needs to be addressed, what you see most issues with, and they're there on hand, they're taking the notes, and they're doing everything they're supposed to be doing. I will say, although it doesn't feel like now, well, first of all, so the incident as of right now was not a shooting. We don't have a victim, there's no one shot. It was just a discharge. As of right now, there's no video, there's no victim came to the hospital, there's no victim on this incident. But for right now, it's only a discharge, just a note for that. In your general community, not that it may end all be all right, but since January, you are actually down in everything, believe it or not, right? So you don't want to hear that you're down?
You're really happy about this. I am like really happy about this. It is. It's just language.
Well, there was also a victim of shooting at the bus stop, literally right after the shooting last month, on the corner of North Hollywood and West Fayette, right there at the bus stop. It was another possible drive-by, there was a victim list, but it happened for that.
And I'm not trying to minimize, that's like, you know, some of your community was shot.
Yeah, but I also wanted to bring up the fact that I don't know if this has to do with Esther Place or not, but there's been a huge influx of dirt bikes in the area, and it feels very transactional in nature. Has anyone seen that? Because they go in the Esther Place direction, and it goes from about 2 to about 3 a.m. every single day, and it goes in 10 minutes to, 10 minutes from, 10 minutes break, and it starts again.
We do have a dirt bike hotline, and I can put that in the email thread for you guys to have. Whenever you see a dirt bike, there's a hotline you call.
Well, what information do you need? Because I sent an information to our liaisons, and I don't know what information to report, because all I can tell you is they go by my house every 10 minutes.
Yeah. So actually, when they're in motion, so there is a unit that doesn't only address dirt bikes, but it is something they do. and when they're in the area, and they are in the southeast area a lot, where you, with the, call the hotline, they address it.
Because it does feel like, right, they're turning on East or they're turning on Highland and they're hanging out in that area.
No, I know, we definitely see a lot of their bikes, four-wheelers and such, for sure.
You know, I got a question. What is Zeke Cohen's office and police department and any of the administrations doing as a whole to ensure that the slumlords, which are really a lot of the problem, everybody's been talking about the slumlords not having LLCs, they just own whatever and they don't do shit to their place. And so it sits vacant, but it sits vacant for years. Why aren't we pushing to have the slumlords held accountable for one, either fix, because I've done 311s on my neighbor 100 times.
I know for sure, Z Cohen's office is, but that is, it's such a long process, and Ethan could probably speak better.
I
about
would
the
definitely
big
wanna speak to that.
Unfortunately, you want to explain it, but, I know 100% that they're showing up at all meetings, yeah, down on the street in front of vacant houses that are known problems, and they are always trying to move forward with either, having the person improve the place or having the city.
But see, the thing is, we've done 311 a gazillion times on these slumlords. And all they do is walk around and say, yep, yeah, looks bad. Slumlord's not gonna do anything, because they're making money off of a piece of crap.
So can we hear from Zeke's office?
Yeah,
then?
Ethan Hassick, Legislative and Community Affairs Director. First of all, Abby, wanted to apologize. I was out of the office unexpectedly, and I know we were supposed to move the alligating forward, and that unfortunately.
No worries.
No, you're not. Yeah. Abby, good to meet you. I just wanted to apologize personally.
Okay, that's all right, you can still email me.
Yeah, we'll talk, we're gonna get that moving again this week, because it's really important. There's so much to cover here, but I want to talk to both specifically.
Would you mind actually coming up here?
Yeah, sorry, I can't remember my microphone. Want to speak both specifically to this location and to the broader question of what is the city doing about vacants. In regards to the specific location, I think what we'd like to do next, and also, Ron, we were emailing about coming to this meeting and
Yes.
right. So just for everyone's information, this was on the agenda even before this weekend's events happened, to have a discussion at this meeting. We've been working on getting the houses reboarded. We've been working on these specific locations with housing. So someone else on this call, we had actually a property with the same owner. With them, we got a tip, we passed it on to Sergeant Johnson. They went out there, they pulled like a dozen stolen bikes out of there and raided the house. So there is precedent where we've been able to deal with these things. Sometimes the police just need to find a way, and I know the captain could speak to the increased patrols and what the police is doing. But in terms of what we're gonna do, definitely like to get with the group that's gonna meet afterward. What I discussed with the councilman is we'd like to have a meeting, hopefully sometime this week, as soon as we can do it. President, vice president of the neighborhood association, or the vice president for the area, and then 3 to 5 neighbors. Just want to keep it to like a smaller working group. We can do a walk with a larger group, but just want to have a smaller group, bring the agencies together, discuss it. Abby moving the alligating forward as quickly as we can, getting those approvals this week. I actually made contact with a representative from the ownership, and they seemed supportive of the office and wanted to talk, and then I was out of the office unexpectedly. So we'll be sure to have that conversation this week as well. Just because not only are we going to need to make contact with the ownership to get these issues addressed quickly, but in addition to get approval for the alligating, which will also, I want to say too, like this neighborhood has precedent of doing successful alligatings. So I think it's something that, especially with support from the mayor's office, collaboration with our office, collaboration with the police department, confident we can move forward really, really quickly. So what does the office do?
Yep,
absolutely. So we've been working on boarding them. We've been coordinating with various neighbors on various locations, trying to get additional citations on the properties, alerting the police department. In terms of the broader scope of what are we doing about vacants, there was a legislation passed. Slumlords who are holding The owners vacants. of the properties that won't clean up their property.
Yep,
and the police, they get boarded up and they can't do anything about it because it's just boarded up. and they know they
Absolutely.
get broken.
So
So
one-
what are you doing to hold the slumlords accountable?
Great
in
question.
Z Cohen's office to get something done?
Yep.
To get the slumlord to fix the property or sell it to somebody who wants to fix it up?
Exactly. So the number one tool that's gonna be really important for that is being able to have those properties taxed at a higher rate. There was legislation passed at the state level to allow us to do that. We're planning to either introduce or co-sponsor that, introduce it sometime this summer. We're allowed to do it, I believe, starting July 1st. So you can look for introduction of that.
I mean, that would be
What is
for
that
any
percentage?
vacant property.
The next
It's not-
council meeting is
it's not
July
like
22nd.
in a couple
That's
years,
the-
it should be taxed at a higher rate.
Sorry, say that one more time?
If you have a piece of property that's sitting there for 2 or 3 years, bringing in all sorts of drug dealers that we have to deal with.
Yeah.
Next door neighbors, not Z Cohen's office, not the police department, they have to deal with it when it goes wrong.
Right.
But we live and breathe it every day.
Yeah.
And talk about a drive-by shooting that didn't shoot anybody, well, it could have, and we see that all the time.
Absolutely, and that's why that business model of just holding on to vacant homes, and as like investments shouldn't be a viable business model, and having a much higher tax rate will disrupt that. I will say one of those two addresses, does have an interior demolition permit, which is like the first step of rehabilitating it, and others are being rehabilitated. So that's something else to check in with the ownership about, but this law about the increasing the property tax rate on vacants is gonna be the first major legislative step that the city has taken in a long time. There are some other plans as well. The administration, the mayor's office has a whole plan that we're also supportive of. But we think increasing the property tax rate is gonna be really transformative.
Okay, so I've got, I see 3 hands here. I'm sorry, we're gonna need to keep just you 3. So you're gonna be and then Ethan is going to be still around for a little bit after the meeting if you want to talk to him individually. So let's start with you.
I'm happy to walk over there, okay? With please.
Go ahead.
Okay, so in reference to what you're saying about the vacants and everything in the long-term plan is like, that's great, but, so, I mean, I've seen this playbook over and over again. We just had Muscle show up on the block last week and we have a shooting now. So like, okay, yeah, it didn't happen, but it's going to happen and somebody's coming back. So that's one side of the story right there, right? So what can we do to expedite certain things? Obviously, police can't do much, right? Like we know that already, right? Like I know that personally, especially within the last decade of the changes. So what in Zeke's office, what in Brandon Scott's office do they plan on doing with Baltimore City?
Yeah.
With people in Baltimore City, because another shooting's coming. But what happens when a civilian gets shot, right? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
What happens
absolutely. We
when-
can't let that happen.
Yeah, because these things do happen. They don't care who they shoot at.
Yeah.
We got, and it's summertime, everybody's out. We had what, 10 last night or 10 over the weekend, something like that?
Well, I'm gonna let the police, I wanna let the police speak to their piece, but in terms of things that our office is doing.
No, I get their piece, but I wanna know like what, because y'all all over them, like policy comes downhill.
Of course, getting the alligating done and getting the lighting done, and then, of course, addressing the, stressing to the ownership the need to address this and make sure that this is not happening in these neighborhoods. And then holding some lords accountable with these higher property taxes.
Let me supplement that with just a little bit, because I worked with your office and a couple other offices before, like, the plan, okay, is we need to submit as many 301 requests as we can about the same properties and the same issues over and over again. We need like a Google document to save all those numbers, okay? And then through Zeke's office or one of these other offices, we've had them before, they will start a nuisance abatement process against the landlord to basically threaten to take the property if they don't fix X, Y, and Z by X, Y, and Z date. That takes a long time because they have a certain amount of time to try to fix it before they can actually bring the nuisance abatement action, which will ultimately take the property from them. And it's through those threats that we get them to take action. And it's through the 311 calls, which we keep a list of, that we keep that pressure on them. So that's one of the things I want to talk to you all about tonight is we need to, have an organized, list of, and it sounds like, Abby's already done a lot of this. Organize all our 311 calls, organize what they're about, get those numbers to Zeke's office and pressure them to do the nuisance abatement process.
Yeah.
Start it now.
And we're happy to open it immediately. I will say, based on experience, again, with the other property working with this ownership, I think that it's just a question of when is the rehabilitation good. I don't think it's gonna need to go that far, but we're happy to start the process. Okay? Yes.
I just want to know what the percentage tax increase would be for these properties.
I don't think that number's been determined yet, but I'm happy to share it out once it is.
Yes.
So Ethan, I'm new to this whole neighborhood area and I just started contacting my neighbors about the alligating. and the process looks like a long ass project.
Yeah, no, it is.
I want to know from you what Zeke and the city of Baltimore are gonna do for us to speed this shit up.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to go out and have to police my own alley. I don't, but I will. I did 13 years on the police department myself, and I will protect my neighbors if I have to. But I want you guys to gate the fucking alley and not make us pay for all the gating.
No, of course
I wanna
not.
know if Baltimore is really going to claim to protect their citizens and make this city look better and go forward and be a safe place. The city needs to come up with the money and go out there and gate the alley for us. And I want to know when that's gonna happen.
I can't give you a date, so I'm not gonna do that, but what I.
Is the city gonna expedite that for us?
The we're gonna do everything we can to expedite it, and what I already offered to Abby is, to personally make connection with all of because the first step is getting signatures. Make connections with all, because we can get internally direct contact information for the property owners. And so reaching out to those property owners, and getting the sign-ons for the ones that you haven't been able to reach yet, and all those contacts will be attempted at least once, if not twice, by the end of the week for the relevant area.
I think also part of the process is getting DPW signed off, and I'm hopeful that with that Batista.
Yes, Haiti, yes.
Haiti here,
Batista,
that is a contact we could use in that process. And for my part, I also already reached out to Charm City Construction to get a quote. So I'm trying to have everything set up, so once we get approval, we can move.
Okay. I'm sorry, we really do have to move on because they will turn off the lights and kick us out. So I know that this is an ongoing process and there is lots to say about this. But after the meeting, actually, we usually just sit outside, right on the steps outside, and we keep talking individually and among ourselves. Okay.
Ernest says, just to
Yes.
close it out, I think a few people were asking about, so I was just wondering if the captain would be able to speak to like anything in terms of increased patrols or just like what neighbors can expect to see in the lake.
Yeah, no, there's 100% already began since the increased patrol, special attention to the area with both our DAT team and our patrol officers. What I was speaking of previously is we can liaison, I think, with our community relations, our chief of community relations. And she will get the mayor's office and everyone on board. And like I said, we take that walk and we identify the vacants and everyone's right there. Mayor's office, everyone's right there on scene, looking at what you're looking at. DPW will be right there with us. We'll look at lights and see what lights can be fixed or need to be fixed, or maybe lights needed to be added in certain alleys. All these things will be assessed that I think will really pay a lot of dividends, you know, as the first step. And they usually come in and then we'll assess it on a walk, and then they'll set a date, usually like within a week or 2 weeks, and then they come back and address the issues. And it's really, really helpful. We've done it in a lot of different communities. McElderry Park was just the most recent, where they really, it was a huge cleanup, paid a lot of dividends. And I really appreciated it and saw a lot of good things come from it. So that, I think, is one main step.
Yeah, and before we do that, I think the plan is to have a smaller meeting, not necessarily on site, but just with a group of 3 to 5.
Yeah.
At least, so.
Especially if you guys.
I just have one question.
I'm sorry, do you think you could ask that to them
It's be
individually?
real quick. I promise you to be really quick.
All right.
I see the police ride through, but they don't arrest anybody. I mean, it's like an open air drug market, like everyone knows to go there. So is there like, am I missing something?
They can so much, and
Because
they
they like,
able to.
the guys are there, you can see that they're selling drugs. City wanted to see it. Police drive by, but they just keep driving by.
Yeah, I didn't pull the actual stats. I know sometimes it feels that way. I didn't pull the actual stats because of how many arrests have been made in your community. I can do that.
I'm not talking about stats, I'm talking about what is the procedure? When you see someone selling drugs, is there a
Yeah,
procedure
the
there
officer
that an
would make an
officer?
arrest if he visibly saw someone selling drugs. 100%.
Not just using them though.
People
right?
typically sell drugs like they may be in front of you, but not in front of officers, right? But it's not saying, there's plenty of arrests being made in Baltimore City, believe me.
What about users? Are you arresting users? People that are openly just.
Yeah, 100%. People who have possession of drugs can definitely be arrested. Now, it's not an immediate go-to always, right? They try to give people help. That's another thing when, we do that walk, they address homelessness, right? So they'll come out and they'll try to address the people who are homeless and try to help them and give them opportunities. Do the same thing with a job program, all those people could be credited in the walk, which I think, again, they did.
What day of the walk?
It's not, no, I'm asking.
Yeah.
We'll set it up after.
Next topic, because this is really important.
I'm sorry, there are other people who also asked to have time in this meeting, so we gotta give them some time to speak.
All right,
Go
well,
ahead.
real quick, hello, my name is Stefan, this is my
My
partner.
name is
Khalid.
Khalid.
Technically, we live, always see we live in, McDonald Park, 200 blocks, but we do a lot of work for Robin Lewis, we do a lot of work with Patterson Park, et cetera, et cetera. I want to bring the topic to you that's gonna affect you all directly before you hear it on the news media and the papers, et cetera, et cetera. There's been an issue with Delegate Robin Lewis. She accused Khalid of stalking, harassing, said her life was in danger because he wanted to hold her accountable. And then the email said, I'm gonna hold you accountable for the injustice and that you're doing in the neighborhood, because long story short, she was doing some shady shit. We went to court on Friday. We had a great attorney. She sat there and lied. We can get the disposition. We have artifacts to refute every lie that she said. She said that he physically harassed her minister, threatened her life, encroached in her personal space. She hired him to do contracting work. Because of him, she was able to get $238 million for public transportation. She then asked him in March to do this project on a statewide level so that we could get money statewide for public transportation. In court, she lied. She said he did a horrible job, so she didn't hire him. He wrote a letter. The other day, there was a meeting. We were all in the square. I worked in DC, so I got here a little late. Rushed the meeting, left my key in the office, anyway, et cetera, et cetera. After the meeting was over, they were walking across the street, we were on the group. He said, no, we need to talk about this issue now. She didn't want to talk about it. She said, talk to my assistant. He did. He emailed his assistant. He emailed her, et cetera, et cetera. Then he told her you're disgusting and you're a liar and you don't care about the Black Native residents of Baltimore. And then the next day there was a sheriff knocking on her door, and I have that video of that as well, that said she feels like she's in imminent danger. Long story short, the case was dismissed. But this is going to probably news media. There's probably going to be another civil court case because, again, we have artifacts, emails, video recordings to refute every lie that she told. And she is not for the community. She is personally, I know the other meeting, there was a whole discussion of bias. And the real reason that that issue was because he wrote an email to the Park Board calling out the racism, the bigotry, the bias, the discrimination, the segregist lines that are affecting the entire neighborhood. So that's the real reason we have the meeting.
Which is why we live in McElderry Park.
Mind you, he briefed Robin. Robin was aware. We all went to dinner. Shout out to Rudy Rooks history. Y'all have to go there. We went there for dinner and briefed her on the email that was going to be written. She was in agreement with the email that was sent. And because she got the blowback, she told him, why'd you do that, et cetera, et cetera. So it all went downhill from there. And like I just said, we went to the court. We had a great attorney, Chelsea, and our other attorney. And
you know, the problem is what this comes down to is the fact that I stated my political opinions. And after that, I was excluded from a meeting during the grant writing process for Library Square. And when I voiced my concerns, the next day I had a peace order and police banging on my door when I was in my house meditating. So it really scared the shit out of me, especially as a Black man in this country, quite frankly. And to be lied on and said that I threatened her life simply because of a political opinion is disrespectful and disgusting. And it's a violation of my First Amendment rights. And I say this to all of you because it can happen to any of us in this room. And what it came down to is what I was really asking for is to fix the damn square, fix the intersections in our community, and have an actual community. See all the people here today? There should be more people. There should be hundreds of people, because we all live in this neighborhood. But the segregative ideology and just the division within our community is the reason why there aren't that many people here. And what I experienced is, you know, it shows just, you know, exactly what's going on. So
And not only
I
that,
just want you all to be aware.
the temperament of today, for her to make those false allegations, which they were all false. Again, we have the artifacts to refute everything that she's saying. It's really, it comes down to her putting someone's life in danger because they didn't agree with her. And she said it was like a lifetime movie. She, you know, she's got to look at that. But I just want you all to be aware because she represents your district. And for some to use their political power to personally go after someone who had different ideas from her, or was really just trying to hold her accountable, nothing that he didn't do with the neighbor, Patterson Park, PPNA, as they know. It just really couldn't take the heat. She made up all these lies, and I don't appreciate that. I work in DC every day. I took off early today. Friday, I had to take off out of a hearing just to come to his court case. Like, it's really crazy, and it's disgusting. So I just want to know what you're.
I had to spend, I just say, I had to spend $1,000 out of my pocket last minute to get a lawyer. Because if I didn't get the lawyer, I mean, who knows what would have happened to me? I probably wouldn't have had the case dismissed. But just the fact that I was put through that, and that anybody else can be put through that as well, it's the problem in this country. And we should uphold our morals and values of freedom. And that's not what just happened.
And so, yeah, and oh, on a side note, Charm Kitchen has the best black bean burger fries. If you're looking for pills, they have great German beer. As far as everyone else talking about the drugs and the alligating, we have that on our block too. 311 is actually, we wrote reports, and I called 311 wrote, it's all in how you write it, because when I wrote them and then me writing, they came the next day, they sanctioned the owner of the house. There was another vacant house like boarded up, and as soon as I made those reports, I mean, only had to make a couple. 311 was on it. They did a great job, and the owners, one of the houses they fixed up, and that's how the neighbor came to the block. And then just so 311 really does kind of.
They help sometimes. I mean,
It depends on who you talk to and the mood they're in for the day.
A lot of the time, we shouldn't have to be putting these reports in the first place because it should have just been done. But you know, we're gonna go along with the process, and hopefully one day we're not gonna have to deal with these issues. You know.
So yeah, so that's really it. We just wanted y'all to know.
Thank you.
It's.
I feel like a lot of, maybe the problems at hand come around the community being unaware about what we can do as, citizens in our own neighborhood to help each other out. Specifically, honestly, I really didn't know anything about this organization, honestly, like, he's a really big advocate. And honestly, like, just the injustice that he's endured, just being in this, organization is a little disheartening. And for somebody who is like a first timer here, that's kind of like scary, because it's like, if I personally have a political concern, do I need to be concerned about, what he has been through? Just questions at hand that run through my mind. Also, just being a part of this community, which I've literally never met, I'm a little incognito, so I can't say that I'm active. I'm a worker, naturally, I have to pay my own bills and stuff like that. But, people like this in the community, can definitely help. He's helped. Actually, he brought this whole line here today, just based off the words that he's put out,
And there are a lot of good
active
community members in Patterson Park. Like they literally are. Everyone thinks everyone's friendly, so it's really, it is.
As far as like the people who we had representing us as a community.
I mean, that's the same thing they were saying about the police, about Steve Cohen. I think, speaking to your point, it's about unifying. I used to do community engagement in DC for a very long time, on federal and district level. And it's about everyone who's in here doing what they were doing what they just did, uniting, coming together, because they're strength in numbers. I mean, the only thing they can all do is sit outside on their steps every night, strengthen numbers, because then everyone's gonna be scared, get the lights up, and just take back the neighborhood. It's really.
I'm really sorry. We have 7 minutes. We have gotta move. We gotta move. I am so sorry. We gotta move. Okay. All right. So, okay, we got a few more things. Elena has an announcement. Go ahead.
Hi, everybody. So, sorry. I usually am taking notes, but starting this August, the first Thursday, every Thursday for the next 8 weeks, we are partnering with Baltimore City Parks and Rec at the newly opened Virginia S. Baker Recreation Center for family game nights, because I know a lot of conversations happen here, but we don't actually get to know each other. So we will have board games there. It'll have AC, and I hope that you guys can all come. We'll have some board games like there available, but if you have any that you'd like to bring, then you can totally do that. And kids are also welcome. It's like a family game night kind of thing. I'll post the address and all the time details there, but we'd love to see you in like more of a conversational forum.
Great. I got them, I got them board games for you as well, so that's the Virginia S. Baker Recreation Center in the park.
I'm bringing Cleve.
Yes.
You're bringing blue, okay.
Right, at the entrance, I know.
2601.
All right, and last thing I'm gonna do before we close out, let's take a drawing, shall we? So, winner of this drawing gets this year $10 gift card to Francesca's Empanada and Cafe. And you know,
Ernest, before you draw can I ask one question?
sure.
On St. Elizabeth's door, they are announcing their final mass in September. So are they closing, and is that building going to sit vacant now?
To be honest, I don't know. I really don't have any more information than you do.
All right, I think that's a big issue because that's a huge building and I think we need to learn.
Okay,
All right, thank you.
all right. So I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna ask Miss Cheryl to do it right. Reach in there. All right, and get your tickets out. Let's read this number.
Good. On the last four numbers, 2305.
Hey. There you go. Now you're. All right, thank you very much for coming. We will see you in the next meeting. You're over there. Yeah.